The Hitman is stinging the beast, and I'm Van Connor.
I'm Adam Ball, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom. Groovy.
So, hello and welcome back to a fun-packed show. We've got loads of movies to talk about, but not as many as we normally would, Van. We normally have an extra one. So why are we a movie short this week? I believe there's a story.
There is a story. So there's a movie out this week. It's out today. It's called Young Woman in the Sea. Now, I didn't even know this thing existed until I was, I think it was at the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes premiere. And you know the studios, they like to show their trailers for their upcoming movies. So if you go to a Warner Brothers premiere, Warner Brothers trailers are what you see, naturally enough.
Yeah.
So we were at the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes ones, which is like Fox Disney. And they're showing us like the trailer for Inside Out and Deadpool Wolverine, and then this thing called Young Woman in the Sea. And I remember, just for the record, I turned around to Sarah Phelan when we were in this, and I went, that is going to make no money. And I think I'm going to be proven right on this one somehow. So it's this true story, 1910s, 1920s type period piece, starring Daisy Ridley from, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I think she's an American. She was the first woman to swim the English Channel. Like, the whole thing is like a boilerplate period piece. It's all like shot in grey tone. Looks boring as hell. And I think my friend Simon Hooper brilliantly says, is this how they got her to agree to that like new Star Wars thing that she's going to do? Like, we'll give you, just do Star Wars, do the Rey Star Wars spin-off for us, and we'll make whatever piece of crap passion project you want to do. Because otherwise, there is no reason for this thing to... It's the boys in the boat without the boat. You know what I mean? It's absolute shash. Complete nonsense. There was no premiere for it. There was one screening, and it was right after the bank holiday. It was on the Tuesday morning, first thing in the morning. And I was just like, I can't be asked to go all the way into Central just for this. Like, no.
I think we can forgive you on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but, Lex Luthor once said, land is the most precious commodity in the universe because they're not making any more of it. I say time is the most precious commodity in existence because you definitely aren't getting any more of it. So I don't really want to sink it into that. Like, I'm good at my job, but not that good. You know what I mean? So let's just cover 3 good ones instead.
Let's just hope that doesn't end up being the next blockbuster, because then I'll clip this and make sure we play it back.
When Furiosa's pulling in 32 on 168 budget, I don't fancy the chances of Daisy Ridley swimming across the channel somehow. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. All right, well, that's fair enough. So we've got 3 big ones, actually, from what I see. And one of them I have mainly seen. Haven't seen it all, but I'll explain that when we get to it. So let's start with a movie about something that I think we're all scared of, about the near future, artificial intelligence taking over. It's called The Beast. It is out in cinemas from today. Talk to me about it then. How was it?
Right. I mean, I'll get to how it was, but I got to explain that concept for you first, because it's a doozy, this one. Right, so, new movie from Bertrand Bonello, written and directed by stars Léa Seydoux and George Mackay. So, Léa Seydoux, you presumably know as James Bond's girlfriend from the last few Daniel Craig ones, but I mean, not my kind of movies, obviously. But and George Mackay from Pride, and was it 1917? I think it was in 1917. And so the premise here is, I think it takes place in 2044. AI is now all everywhere, and it has basically run human beings out of work. Like, they have menial, like servant-like jobs or boring administrative kind of roles. And the only way that you can ascend higher in terms of employment is to remove emotion from yourself, because AI does not trust human beings because of their emotions. It thinks they're unstable and unreliable because of their emotions. However,
true.
They're not wrong. If you purge yourself of emotions, and I'll get to how they do that, the AI will allow you to have a better job. So Léa Seydoux decides, she's bored of her menial existence. She literally checks the temperature in these archives. She goes and checks the temperature every few minutes. That's her job, kind of thing. Like, they have people like the janitors, things like that. And She basically goes to, it's kind of like a medical facility where she delves into her past lives. And by delving into your past lives, you can address certain traumas and emotional triggers and remove yourself from them. But as she starts to look more and more into her past lives, she also discovers that she's crossed paths on a number of occasions with, is he Louis? I think he's Louis, George Mackay as Louis. And the film is largely in French, but George Mackay and she both occasionally speak English as well. They're both bilingual. And their romance literally spans, multiple lifetimes. It echoes through the ages. But they are different people in every lifetime. There's a brilliant one, for instance, where he's an incel, and another one where he's like, a classical, 1910s gentleman, like Paris in like 1914 or something. And it's about delving into this historical romance between the two. We've not got a clip, obviously, because it would be in French, wouldn't it? So, bit lost on us.
I like the premise of this, to be honest. Like, it gives me Sliding Doors vibes slightly.
There's a little bit of that. It is more of an art house film than that, though. I will say it's very laboured. It's very slow paced. It takes its time, and when I say it takes its time, this thing is nearly 2.5 hours long.
Ooh,
it really is. So we're talking about a near 2.5 hour subtitled film that does admittedly star two pretty good actors. I will die on the hill that Léa Seydoux has the career that Adele Exarchopoulos should have had. And if you were going to cast one of the two from Blue is the Warmest Colour to be the go-to dramatic hottie, I would have gone with Adele every time. But I still like Léa Seydoux. Fine. I'd rather have Adele in a Bond movie, but that's neither here nor there. It's my wish casting. George Mackay, though, big fan of that guy. In fact, I think I've told you the story about how I met him once. And I forgot his name, and I just immediately referred to him as his Pride character. I literally saw him coming down the corridor towards me in a BFI, just shouting out, "Bromley!" And he gave me a hug. He gave me a bloody hug. What a nice young man he was. That's one of Kermode's events. But yeah, this has stuff to say on the artificial intelligence front, but it is more about the romance. It is more about the drama. Gorgeously shot. Absolutely wonderful cinematography, production design, very lavish looking film. And obviously, because it spans different time periods, that production design does get pushed to its limits. As, we're talking about they have to make, Paris in the 1910s look as gorgeous, for instance, as Paris in 2044. So good performances, though. Story was gripping enough, but I think that drag factor is going to hit a lot of people. That laboured nature and its runtime, I think, is going to hurt it in terms of people seeing it in cinemas. Not that I think anyone's going to be seeing it this weekend, because clearly they're all going to be rushing out to see Young Woman and the Sea. I mean, obviously, we know this. I mean, who wouldn't bank on the Daisy Ridley English Channel movie? Yeah, but Furiosa made 32 and 168.
Showing in one cinema in the UK, then maybe.
That's an awkward conversation we're going to have about the next film, believe me. So say it's called The Beast, or I think it's La Bête, to give it its original French title. Léa Seydoux, George Mackay, in cinemas now. It's pretty good, but like I say, take a comfortable pillow to sit on. You know what I mean? Because it's a bit of a bum number.
And some glasses if you need them for reading, because obviously you're going to have to be reading the subtitles for most of it. All right, so we have still got Sting to look at in a bit, which I'm quite interested to talk about because I've seen most of it. We're also going to look at Hitman next. We'll see what Van thought. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Still a couple of movies to talk about that Van has already seen, of course, because that's why he's here. So we're going to look at Sting in a moment, which is that one about the massive spider. But first, let's look at Hitman, out in cinemas from today. I don't really know much about this one, Van, so I'll leave it all to you.
Well, I've been dying to see this for a long time. This screened at the Venice Film Festival last year. So last September.
Wow.
Okay, so that's how long this is. So I've got friends who saw this in Venice. Like my Matt Turner in particular was a big fan of it. And when he heard the release, because it got bought by Netflix, there was a bit of a bidding war. Netflix outbid everyone and then sat on it for nearly a year. So he was absolutely livid about it, I think, when the news broke. This stars Glenn Powell. Top Gun Maverick, Anyone But You. Glenn Powell, going to be the star of the upcoming Twister sequel, Twisters. And it is also co-written by Glenn Powell alongside its director, Richard Linklater. You know, Richard bloody Linklater, you know, like indie film royalty, Richard Linklater. So this is based on an insane true story. So it's loosely based on an insane.
Right, you got my attention now.
Yeah, they've had to play a bit fast and loose with it because I think the actual guy was like 50 or 60, and obviously Glenn Powell is not. And this is also, I think, set closer to the present day because it uses iPhones and things. And if they were doing the true story accurately, this would have to be in like the late 80s and early 90s. So, in both cases, it is the story of Gary Johnson, an unassuming middle America college professor who's kind of a bit of a dud. So I know casting Glenn Powell to play him is a bit of a stretch. I agree. Like, most dowdy college do not look like Glenn Powell. The world would be a better place if they did. He has a sideline, like a side hustle, as a sort of casual worker working for the local police department. And what he does is he sits in the van, like a stakeout surveillance van, and he monitors this operation they have going, where they have an officer pretend to be a hitman. Hitmen, as we are told, are not real. They're not a real thing that exists in the world, but people think that they do. And so the police put out, all the feelers that, they are the hitman, and then a would-be client gets in touch with them, gets to meet them at a restaurant or a cafe, sits down and says, right, I need you to kill my wife. Here's here's how much money I can give you. Here's how I want you to do it, etc. And the person they're actually talking to is an undercover policeman. Well, Gary Johnson and his mates are in the van. And then as soon as the guy goes outside, after having agreed to the, this contract with the hitman, the police are waiting for him to put him in cuffs. Boom, life saved. Okay? One day, Gary Johnson is called upon to fill in for, a colleague who's, I think, gotten in some hot water and is not able to do the actual hitman impersonation. So rather than being in the back of the van, he gets to can you just go inside and just you'll be natural. Don't worry about it. Go and pretend to be the hitman. And he does. And it turns out he's really good at it. He's insanely good at it. And because he's done so well on this one, they start to get him to do it more and more. And he then starts to really apply himself. He starts tailoring disguises to individual clients. This woman would respond better to a Russian hitman, so I'll put on the all black leather coat with the wig and do the accent, things like that. You'll hear it in the clip in a minute. However, as well as he's doing at this, it all starts to unravel when he finds himself falling for a woman who attempts to hire him to kill her husband. And it all starts to come crashing down around. Like I say, loosely based on a completely insane true story of a man who, I think we're told at the end of the film, and in reality I think we know this is true, assisted in over 70 arrests doing this. More than about 70 people got arrested because of this police scam. So have a listen. This is from Richard Linklater's Hitman.
My name is Gary Johnson, and I'm a fake hitman. I realized not everyone fantasized about the same hitman. Every sting operation was a performance.
This is serious. I am in service business.
And each arrest was like a standing ovation.
Okay, Daniel Day.
I had it down to a science.
Sounds lovely.
Until things got,
Ron.
complicated.
Madison.
I mean, this is my kind of film. Not only is it based on a true story, I love the premise of it. I love how it unfolds. I'm sure there's twists and turns. I mean, you had me after the first 20 seconds, if I'm honest.
Fair play. Like I say, it's one of those stranger than fiction stories, and it's a perfect fit material-wise for the charisma of Glenn Powell and the sort of energy of a Richard Linklater movie. It's got a lot of gusto going for it. Adria Arjona as well, who plays the love interest in this, she makes quite an impression. I was trying to place her the entire time I was watching the film. I was trying to place her, and it turns out she was in Pacific Rim Uprising and the Father of the Bride remake that went straight to HBO Max like 2 years ago with Andy Garcia in the Steve Martin role, because there is no God and cinema hates us. But beyond that, I mean, Retta. I loved Retta in this movie. You know Retta from Good Girls? You ever watch Good Girls?
Oh, yes.
The Netflix show. Yeah, Retta from Good Girls and Parks and Rec.
In this?
Yeah, you could hear her in the clip there. She's the one who says, "Okay, Daniel Day," and she's just got this wacky charm. It's fun watching all of the sort of lies start to pile up on Gary Johnson. For not going to call him Glenn Powell, on Gary Johnson, and it's really inventively done. It's a bit of a weird release strategy with this one, incidentally. I have to point this out. This actually opened in select cinemas last week, like a handful of cinemas. Entirely because Netflix are required to have a certain theatrical window in order for a movie to qualify for awards. So this is going to Netflix next week. So this is on Netflix. I think it's June 7th. This arrives streaming on Netflix. But you can go to a cinema right now and see it. I think they're doing Q&As and things like that. It's a very limited number of cinemas. They're doing like a dozen or so, kind of thing, essentially around central London. Like, you'll definitely see it in central London. I actually would encourage people, if you know of a cinema that is showing it, go and see this, because we just don't make movies like this anymore. And to be fair, having read a lot of interviews with Glenn Powell over the past week, because he's been promoting this, obviously, he's done a lot of interviews where he's been quite candid, like refreshingly candid about the state of the film industry. Like I said, I'll never do a DC movie, I'll never do a Netflix, I'll never do a straight to streaming kind of Netflix movie, like nothing like that. No, if I do a movie, it's going to a cinema. I turned down Jurassic World because there was nothing I could bring to that they didn't have already. I turned down a Marvel movie, I turned down... And you're like, okay, this guy's actually got his head screwed on. Like, he seems to really know. But one of the things he said is that he is specifically seeking out theatrical projects that fit a niche that simply is not being filled anywhere else. And you look at something like Anyone But You, and it makes all the sense in the world that he said that, because you're like, okay, yeah, because we're not really doing many old school rom-coms anymore. Like, that seems to have gone the way of streaming. It's nice to have one in cinemas. He made all the money for it. A sequel to Twister. That's a niche. He'll make all the money for it. This is very much one of those projects. There's something very 90s feeling about it in terms of the sensibility. It's very it's very specific comedic tone, and that almost Elmore Leonard-like, web of criminal intrigue that starts to sprout up around him. So again, it fits that niche. If you can get to a cinema to see it, please do. I wish I'd been able to go to a cinema and see this. I had to watch this on my Netflix screener account. They have like a, I don't know if you know this, when they give you a screener link for a Netflix film, you have to have a Netflix account. This is the thing, right? And you get an extra row added to your Netflix, which is called preview content. And in order to actually, but you've had one, haven't you? I'm sure you've had one.
Yeah, I've got it.
And you have to, in order to play that thing, you have to put in a specific pin, which I never remember. And every single time I have to check my notes app on my phone because I'm never remembering that pin. But I wish I'd seen this on the big screen. I know I'm watching it on a 90-inch TV, so I'm kind of cheating. But yeah, just see it in cinemas. This is what movies used to be like. I'm glad Glenn Powell exists, and I'm very, very glad the man is as smart and as sharp as he is handsome. So, Hitman. In limited cinemas now, Netflix from June 7. It's bloody brilliant. Go and check it. I laughed my ass off. I was really swept up in this not-so-true story. Yeah, do check this out.
And that's the thing for me. The fact that it's got a true story meaning behind it just draws me to stuff like this, as well as the whole thing looking and sounding amazing. So Hitman, go and see it or wait for Netflix. Totally up to you. Next, then, we're going to talk about Sting, which I have seen over half of. I'll explain in a minute, but we'll see what Van thought next. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We have got one more movie to talk about this week, and I'm pleased to say I can join you with half of it, Van, and this is Sting, the movie that everyone's talking about, who basically is afraid of spiders, because anyone who sees the trailer for this just goes, "Ah!" So that's basically what it's about. It's about a spider. I'll hand over to you first, Van, because I'm really worried about what I might say and what I might give away.
Well, first, I mean, you're burying the lead on just a spider. It's an alien spider, amazingly enough. So this obviously begins with an asteroid crashing into Brooklyn in the dead of winter, and it's literally an asteroid about the size of a ping-pong ball, which finds its way into a doll's house. And there's a brilliant opening sequence where this little asteroid opens up. It turns out it's like an alien egg. It opens up, and a sort of regular-sized little spider emerges. But because it's in a dollhouse, it's kind of foreshadowing everything that's going to come later, because it's the size of, it's comparative to the objects in the dollhouse, it looks massive. It is then named Sting when it is taken in by a little girl who lives in this apartment building into which the Brooklyn building to which the asteroid crashed. She lives with her divorced mother, mum's boyfriend, and their new baby. And there's something of a sort of family disconnect going on. She's not really the most enamored with the family dynamic. And she's kind of a bit of an isolated individual. She starts to bond with this spider that she keeps in a jar, and that she very quickly discovers is actually hyper intelligent, that she can whistle and the spider will whistle back, despite the fact that spiders don't have vocal cords, we are specifically told at one point. So how the bloody hell is it doing that? However, rather than just being smart, Sting also starts to grow exponentially at a rate that is truly terrifying. And in a matter of hours, this thing has doubled in size. By the end of the day, it is 4 times the size. She takes it from a masoned jar to a fish tank, in terms of where she needs to keep it. But like all good monsters, you can't keep Sting locked up forever. And before long, a bunch of mysterious coincidental deaths start to afflict the residents of this apartment building. I've got a clip for you, and this is the exterminator, Frank, played by Jermaine Fowler, being called in to address a crazy older lady. I think she's the little girl's grandmother, actually. Her dead parrot, which has been left in, let's just say, a state of being flayed, for lack of a better term. Have a listen.
Looks like it tried to have sex with a blender. Whatever did this was small. Attack from the inside. And this poor tried to squeeze through the bars.
Could it be rats?
Nope. Hell no. Rats don't melt their food before they eat it.
What's with the nail gun?
Protection.
From what?
It's New York, man. Take your pick.
I mean, I've got to say, like I say, I've seen just over half of this, and I absolutely loved it. I put it on with the thought, usual movie, big spider, grows, eats people, it's going to be a load of rubbish, which is why I put it on quite late at night, and that is why I only got to see half, because I fell asleep. Not because the movie wasn't gripping. The movie really pulled me in, actually, to the point where I will watch the second half to it, especially after chatting to you about it today. But I really liked the half I saw.
Oh, yeah, I mean, really slick, well done little horror flick. It's by the numbers. Like, it's not particularly revolutionary. You can pretty much predict all of the plot beats, and you can probably even predict the very, very final shot of the movie, because these movies always do the same tropes, kind of a thing. It is written and directed by Kia Roach-Turner, whose name was familiar to me, and I could not figure out where I knew it from. And it turns out that he is the director of the Wormwood series, which is a sort of Australian Mad Max-like franchise. This is a lot more of a stripped-down, sort of cheap and cheerful, but he doesn't really look it, but it's obviously been quite effectively budgeted, little apartment building set horror movie. Incidentally, it's one of 2 of these in the space of about 2 months, because we had Infested as well, which was a French equivalent to this. except instead of a giant alien spider, these were, I think, these were like many, many little regular-sized spiders that also just happened to be, murderous spiders. And there was a sort of War of the Worlds type vibe. I've not seen that one yet, because I think it went straight to Shudder, and we had a full week that week. But I'm really looking forward to seeing this. Incidentally, couldn't get Lisa to watch this with me. Could not. Don't do spiders. No, could not get her. I mean, Arachnophobia is one of my favourite little cheap and cheerful horror films. I mean, even though it's a sort of Spielberg one, which Arachnophobia is a banger still. And I know they're on about remaking it. But this very much plays in that sandbox. And it's good. It's really effective and fun. It's not much for the scares. I don't think it's a scary movie. But when it goes for the killing and the death, oh boy, do they whip it out. Oh wow! Like there's one death that we saw. Did you get to the stage with the woman in her apartment, the young woman in her apartment who had the dog? Did you get to that bit?
Yes.
Yeah, and the manner in which they off her, I was like, because I think she's the first like real death that you see. And you're like, wow. Okay, you're not phoning any of this in, you're going there. Okay. Like, just imagine the most sadistic way a spider could kill you and strap on in. Absolutely strap on in. Cast-wise, like I say, you've not got any big stars in this. Jermaine Fowler from The Blackening, who you could hear in the clip as Frank the Exterminator, is really the most known commodity, I think. Alia Brown is very on the nose, named Charlotte, because obviously a little girl who has a spider named Charlotte. Very clever. Yeah.
Of course.
I see you, Kia Roach Turner. I do. She's great in the lead because she's playing a sort of Wrath of Becky type character. But I really love this. I love the sort of characterization of Sting itself. Like, it's kind of an intriguing horror monster. I could see there being a sequel to this, and given the writer-director made something like 3 or 4 of the Wormwood movies, I'd hazard a guess we will see sequels to this. I'd be very intrigued to know what the budget on this was. But I think this will make a few bob this week. And like I say, a nice, tight and tidy, like, I think it's only about 90 minutes as well. It's literally, it's 92. 92 minutes. So it's the perfect length of what it needs to be. It doesn't mess around. It's a bit non-linear. It hops at the beginning, for instance, does a sort of start in the middle and then flash back kind of a structure with Frank in particular. But yeah, I really love this. The sort of design of Sting and the manner in which Sting kills, I thought was really well pulled off. I thought the atmosphere, the sort of production design of this apartment building was kind of perfect. And whoever thought about the Doll's House gimmick? That is just genius. Like, very few movies open with a sequence as effective as this. Like, absolutely.
I agree with that, and I was thinking exactly the same, because I noticed obviously that the spider, when it kind of fell into the Doll's House, and it was just very well done with how even the spider was moving, where it was like its legs were going out slowly, then it would go underneath the ground floor or the middle floor of the Doll's House, and I was like just shuddering watching that, to be honest with you. But it was so well done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd be really intrigued to watch it a second time with that Doll's House opening in mind, because I'm willing to bet that if you actually chart it, everything that the spider does in the Dollhouse foreshadows actual things that it does later in the film. Some of the things it does seem, I think that's what they've actually done. And hats off, brilliant opening sequence, but actually just a really fun movie. Not revelatory, not particularly scary, but it works. It does work. It's scary in the way that Arachnophobia is scary. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing, but a lot more dark and nasty. But good times. Really liked Sting. I will happily watch it again.
And of course, very scary if you're scared of spiders, because I have friends that will have and will refuse to watch this in the cinema, purely like you just said, your other half, not wanting to watch it at all. But if you want to check it out, you got hands up from me and Van by the sounds of it. Sting is out in cinemas from today. We are going to be back in just a minute to go through Film of the Week, and we're going to have a look at some of the stuff that's coming up next week. So stay right where you are. So, hello and welcome back to the final part of this week's Off Screen. We've done the movies. Let's talk about Film of the Week first of all. I think I know what you're going to choose, but what is your Film of the Week, Van?
This is actually a bit of a Sophie's choice for me, because it's kind of between Hitman and Sting. Both are pretty bloody good, to be fair. But, if I was going to hit one, good time at the movies this weekend would be Sting, but I do think Hitman it's just a really awesome throwback. So, do you know what? I'm just going to split the difference. So 50-50, take either Hitman or Sting, and yeah. Sorry, I can't pick one out of the two. Gun to my head, I don't think I could do it.
Well, I'll be able to tell you next week, because Hitman's on Netflix, and next week, did you say, or the week after?
Exactly. I think it's the 7th. I think I read the 7th.
Oh, okay. Not long to wait, and then I can get to see that as well. So, okay, that's good. And Sting, as we mentioned earlier, is in the cinema from today, so you can go and see that at this weekend if you fancy. Let's have a look at next week. What have we got coming up, Van?
So, first up next week, we're going to be talking about The Dead Don't Hurt with Viggo Mortensen himself, Viggo Mortensen, and Vicky Creeps, which is, I think, a sort of frontier America setting, and it's the backdrop for this grand, epic romantic drama, in which case, Viggo Mortensen, that absolutely makes sense. We have also got Riddle of Fire, which is the new one that's about I think it's 3 children who, you know, it's like a child's movie, but it's like live action. 3 kids go on an adventure in the woods when mum sends them on an errand, for instance. The weird thing about this, incidentally, the main actress who plays the mum, the sort of known commodity in this film, is an actress I know as Anna Lee Tipton. She was on America's Next Top Model once upon a time, and she is the jailbait babysitter that tries to have it off with Steve Carell in, was it Crazy Stupid Love? I want to say Crazy Stupid Love. She's now apparently Leo Tipton, which I don't know when that happened, but yeah, Leo Tipton, it turns out, is Anna Lee Tipton. We have also next week got the likes of I know you've been looking forward to this. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 is upon us next week. Now, they actually specifically said, they sent out an email for this, like from, I think it's Altitude that are distributed. They actually sent out an email and said, hey, we're doing a screening, it's going to be on this day, this time. We're only doing one screening. They did this last time as well. We're only doing one screening. There's no links, so if you want to see it, you have to come to this. And I'm thinking, I'm not missing that. Not after how spectacularly crap the first one was. The first one, which I swear was only a year ago, wound up with me and Kermode sat in the back of the Prince Charles, just giggling like gibbons, heckling the thing. It was just trash to the nth degree. So I gotta see what they came up with for a sequel. Apparently, Pooh, Tigger, Eeyore, and Piglet go into a town this time. It was an isolated house in the first one. They're going into a town this time for Blood and Honey 2. I can't wait. They missed a trick, by the way, with 2 Blood, 2 Honey. It would have been a great title. And last but certainly, by no means least, is the 4th installment of one of my very, very favourite film series. Next week, we're talking Bad Boys, Ride or Die. I can't. What's the tagline? Was it Miami's finest become America's most wanted? I think is the.
Now it's most wanted.
Now it's most wanted. Yeah, the whole premise of this one seems to be that the captain who was killed in the previous movie is now implicated in some scandal and has actually left behind like a message for them saying, look, if this happens, do this. And they wind up themselves getting implicated in the same thing and becoming fugitives. I don't know what this means for the sequel setup that they actually put into the end of the last movie, where they were going on an adventure with Will Smith's son. Like, Will Smith's son was going to, get a commuted sentence for all of his crimes by actually taking them on a case, like being their sort of consultant. Don't know where that fits in, but I cannot wait to find out. We're having a boys' night for this. We've actually just, the 4 of us, we're having a full-blown Entourage-style boys' night on Monday night for this. So just expect to see me flinging gang signs on the red carpet, genuinely. I make no apologies. That is absolutely happening. You're going to have 4 very inebriated guys on the red carpet come Monday night, saying "bad boys, what you're going to do" over and over until everyone gets really annoyed with us. And I have no regrets, no apologies. I am who I am. Deal with it. Is what it is.
And I believe every single word of that, actually. That will happen. That's not just hot air, I know. All right, loads of movies to look forward to for next week then. And that is all we've got time for this week. We shall return next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we'll be back.